for the World, www.radiofortheworld.com. And we are back with our next interview. We have Dorie Pride in the building. How are you doing, Dorie?
I am doing great. How about you? How are you
Welcome.
today?
Welcome to the 80 Hours of Madness. I'm doing good, actually. I'm only almost 24 hours in, 22 hours, 23 hours in. So I'm hanging in there.
23 hours in. So, what does that mean?
That means I have
You've been up?
50. Yeah, I've been up 22 hours and I've had 50 something hours to go. 58 hours
Wow.
to go. Yeah. 80
Wow.
hours
I
straight.
take my hat off for that.
Thank you. I do it for you. I do it for all of you to promote you to my listeners.
That's a blessing. Everyone that hears you, knows you, supports you, applaud you.
I appreciate that. All right, so let's jump right into this. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you got going on.
Well, my name is Dorie Pride, and I am a singer, songwriter, author, and recently I wrote a documentary,
Okay.
and it's called Words and Video
Uh huh.
uh, Director.
Okay.
So I do a lot of things, but they all connect to the one thing, and the one thing in my life is words, music, hope, discipline, order,
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. I like to be able to help people to be able to find their best self through the things that I'm given to share with them. That comes through my music, that comes through my words, that comes through the things that I write and I give hope to. Because the
Beautiful.
world is dark. It's
Mm-hmm.
really dark right now.
True.
And the most important thing that I can see is offer people hope
Mm-hmm.
because that's something that is so lacking. You see things like the president and all the stuff that's going on. I don't even want to get all into that, but it brings despair.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people, especially real young people, they don't see any hope and they just wild out and just like, I'm going to die anyway. So
Right.
why even bother?
Right.
And I'm here to say, no, you're not. And you can make it. Anything that you do adds to the light.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that you do that adds to the light that is light is going to make the world better. So
100%.
that's where I am with my book, Spirit Talk Soul Walk, leading into that. It was written over many years.
Mm-hmm.
I when I was a little girl, I heard the Lord speak to me, not in an audible voice, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
in my heart, very young,
Mm-hmm.
and I heard God say, "You're going to live well over 100 years. Write everything down and help every person that you can."
Wow.
So I took that seriously and I started keeping journals. And I've been keeping journals to this day. And through the journals, I would find myself seeing where I came from and where spirit brought me from to where I am now. That I was never alone, no matter how hard things could be. There was always a way out. And so I'm writing these journals, and my mom at the time, she was alive, and she used to love to read my writing.
Mm-hmm.
So before she took off her earth suit, she
I
said,
like that. That's beautiful. I'm sorry to interrupt.
promise me that you will do something with your writing. And I said, okay, Mom. And she said, no, no, promise me. And I said, okay, Mom, I will. And then she said, no. She put her hand on my hand and she held it tight. And she said, promise me. So I knew when she did that, I said, okay, she's not kidding. So I said, I will. I promise I will.
Mm-hmm.
Moving the story along, she took her earth suit off. And one day, I'm in Atlanta right now. It was snowing. It was like the heaviest snow I think they've ever had. And I don't know a whole lot about Atlanta because I'm really a California girl. First, I was born in Detroit, Michigan. So
Okay.
that's where my root is. But from there, I've spent the mass majority of my life in California. So I don't know a whole lot of, I had never been in the South until I came to help care for my mom.
Right.
Moving the story along, it was a serious snowstorm and everybody was locked in and we couldn't go out for days. So when I was watching the snow fall, something said, get your journals. So I have a whole lot of volumes of them. And I said, I guess this is the time to start writing. I didn't know how to write this. I'd never written anything like this. I mean, I've always been a writer.
Right.
I've done things creatively, but I didn't know how to structure it and how to do it. So I just said, okay, I'm going to take these journals out.
Radio for the World, www.radiofortheworld.com. And we are back with our next interview. We have Dorie Pride in the building. How are you doing, Dorie?
I am doing great. How about you? How are you
Welcome.
today?
Welcome to the 80 Hours of Madness. I'm doing good, actually. I'm only almost 24 hours in, 22 hours, 23 hours in. So I'm hanging in there.
23 hours in. So what does that mean?
That means I have
You've been up?
50. Yeah, I've been up 22 hours and I've had 50 something hours to go. 58 hours to
Wow.
go. Yeah. 80
Wow.
hours
I
straight.
take my hat off for that.
Thank you. I do it for you. I do it for all of you to promote you to my listeners.
That's a blessing. Everyone that hears you, knows you, supports you, applaud you.
I appreciate that. All right, so let's jump right into this. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you got going on.
Well, my name is Dorie Pride, and I am a singer, songwriter, author, and recently I wrote a documentary,
Okay.
and it's called Words, and video
Uh huh.
uh, director.
Okay.
So I do a lot of things, but they all connect to the one thing. And the one thing in my life is words, music, hope, discipline, order,
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. I like to be able to help people to be able to find their best self through the things that I'm given to share with them. That comes through my music, that comes through my words, that comes through the things that I write and I give hope to. Because the
Beautiful.
world is dark. It's
Mm-hmm.
really dark right now.
True.
And the most important thing that I can see is offer people hope,
Mm-hmm.
because that's something that is so lacking. You see things like the president and all the stuff that's going on. I don't even want to get all into that, but it brings despair.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people, especially real young people, they don't see any hope and they just wild out and just like, I'm going to die anyway. So
Right.
why even bother?
Right.
And I'm here to say, no, you're not. And you can make it. Anything that you do adds to the light.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that you do that adds to the light is going to make the world better. So
100%.
that's where I am with my book, Spirit Talk Soul Walk, leading into that. It was written over many years.
Mm-hmm.
I when I was a little girl, I heard the Lord speak to me, not in an audible voice, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
in my heart, very young,
Mm-hmm.
and I heard God say, "You're going to live well over 100 years. Write everything down and help every person that you can."
Wow.
So I took that seriously and I started keeping journals. And I've been keeping journals to this day. And through the journals, I would find myself seeing where I came from and where spirit brought me from to where I am now. That I was never alone, no matter how hard things could be. There was always a way out. And so I'm writing these journals, and my mom at the time, she was alive, and she used to love to read my writing.
Mm-hmm.
So before she took off her earth suit, she
I
said,
like that. That's beautiful. I'm sorry to interrupt.
promise me that you will do something with your writing." And I said, "Okay, Mom." And she said, "No, no, promise me." And I said, "Okay, Mom, I will." And then she said, "No." She put her hand on my hand and she held it tight. And she said, "Promise me." So I knew when she did that, I said, okay, she's not kidding. So I said, "I will. I promise I will."
Mm-hmm.
Moving the story along, she took her earth suit off. And one day, I'm in Atlanta right now. It was snowing. It was like the heaviest snow I think they've ever had. And I don't know a whole lot about Atlanta because I'm really a California girl. First, I was born in Detroit, Michigan. So
Okay.
that's where my root is. But From there, I've spent the mass majority of my life in California. So I don't know a whole lot of, I had never been in the South until I came to help care for my mom.
Right.
Moving the story along, it was a serious snowstorm and everybody was locked in and we couldn't go out for days. So when I was watching the snow fall, something said, get your journals. So I have a whole lot of volumes of them. And I said, I guess this is the time to start writing. I didn't know how to write this. I'd never written anything like this. I mean, I've always been a writer.
Right.
I've done things creatively, but I didn't know how to structure it and how to do it. So I just said, okay, I'm going to take these journals out and I'm just going to let spirit lead me to which one to pick up and what to write.
Right.
It was really like that. And so I picked one up and I opened it and it was a date and I said, oh, okay, this is the date. And I read it. And I
Mm.
said, okay. So I started typing all these things in a book form. But a lot of it I didn't want to write. It was like, this is my life.
Yeah.
This is the trials and tribulations, the ups and the downs, and all the things in between.
Right.
And I never had anything that I was like really ashamed of. But who wants to have someone come in their house if it's not clean in the way you would want it to be? You want things to be in order.
Right.
And that's the way I've lived my life. But who do you know that is on this earth that just has a spot clean life where nothing ever happened? They never fell down. They never had a bandage on their knee. They never
Nobody.
had any kind of trial. I don't know anybody. So
Nobody.
having said having said that, I said, okay, I'll do it. I'm always being obedient to what I hear to do because I know when I do that, it's going to be right. So I started writing the stuff down, and I was like, oh, do I have to share that? And I heard Spirit say, yes, the places where you fell, where you struggled, those are the places that have the most amount of light, that will bless the most amount of people,
Beautiful.
because everybody likes to feel like they're not alone
Hmm.
in their journey. So I said, okay. So the book came together, and when it came together, I read it and I was like, wow, okay. I got it, God. I went back to the acknowledgments. That was my grandmother. I grew up in a household where stories were really important. And my great grandmother, she would make quilts, and I would sit at her feet. And she had a brown paper bag, and I would give her the pieces that she would sew together. And one day she said to me, we were sitting there, and I'm giving her the material. She said, she would tell me about her mother who was a slave. But I don't remember a lot of those stories. I just remember the weight of it and what it left with me.
Hmm.
She said, my grandmother said, great great grandmother said, she said, uh, baby, she said, hey grandma, one thread this needle for grandma. And I said, okay, grandma. And she said, yeah, she said, if the good Lord bless you to live long, one of these days you're going to have somebody threading the needle for you too. If you live your life and you live a good life, I declare the Lord is going to bless you. And so from that stuck with me. And then my grandmother, her daughter, she would talk to me. And she would every day or several times a week, she would call me into her living room and she'd sit me on the couch and she'd say, Dorie? And then I said, okay, Grandma, what is it? She said, come on in here and let Grandma give you some of her spiritual doctrine. And every day she would give me some kind of pearl,
That's
some
beautiful.
kind of wisdom. They weren't like religious things per se,
Yeah.
but they were spiritual things. They were nuggets of that carried weight,
Yeah.
that allowed me to be able to see my life and to be able to see where it was going. Even as a little girl,
Hmm.
I knew that what she was telling me had value. And I remember saying to her, Many times I would say, Grandma, I said, thank you so much for these words. I said, one day, Grandma, when you go to heaven, I can remember this like it was yesterday. One day, Grandma, when you go to heaven, I, I'm going to tell the whole world about Mary Taylor King and her spiritual doctrine.
Yeah.
And she would look at me and she'd clap her hands. She'd say, oh, Dorie, Dorie, the good Lord is going to bless you. You're a good child. You're a good child. And I said, okay, Grandma, I'm just remember
Right.
that one day the whole world is going to know about Mary Taylor King's spiritual doctrine.
That's
So
beautiful.
when you put all of that together, and my
Yeah.
mother was a brilliant poetess.
Uh-huh.
She was just, she could bring you to tears with her words and move people. And from that, I would see her writing poetry in the middle of the night. I'd get up to go to the bathroom and she'd be pouring her heart out on paper. And I would just peek around the corner and look at her, watching her. And then I'd go back to bed. And I knew looking at that, there's something with these words that she's writing. They have some kind of power. As a little girl, I just knew it. There's something there. And one day when I grow up, I'm going to write like that. I didn't know, but I did. And so time goes on. I grow up. I'm a teenager. Words just came out naturally, and I just could see from my mother's words and how she would move people. I wanted to be like her. So that's what happened. I started writing. But my mother also was a gifted songwriter, and she wrote. Motown wanted to hire her as a songwriter or staff writer, but she refused to take the job because she had three small children and she wanted to be a mother to us, and she knew what it was going to take for that to happen. So she didn't do it, but I got it. I got it from her. So she lived through me, and I lived through her. And so that's where Spirit Talk Soul Walk came from.
That's beautiful.
I write a lot online, on Facebook, on Instagram, on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. I have videos on YouTube, and my whole mission that I know as an adult is to, like I said earlier in this interview, is to bring light to people,
Yeah. That's
to bring
beautiful.
hope to people, to
Yeah.
bring inspiration to people, to let people know just keep on keeping on.
Right.
If you do that, put one foot in front of the other, I'm telling you, if you put one foot in front of the other, Deon,
Yeah.
from my house to yours, if I didn't stop, I would walk to California. I would be able to walk to California. I could walk to Italy.
Right.
I mean, I'd have to get on something to
Right.
move there, but if my mind was set in that way,
I can
because
do it.
I'm cut like that, nothing can stop me.
That's beautiful.
Nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop anybody.
Yeah.
So when I'm writing these blogs, a lot of it comes from excerpts from my book. And then a
Gotcha.
lot of it just comes through spirit that I'm supposed to share, because I spend the first part of my day, every single day of my life, in prayer and meditation. And again, like I said, I'm not really a religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person,
Mm-hmm.
and I walk with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
That's my example. That's my savior. That's my everything. I listen and I tune in to a whisper. I remember being a little girl and I said to my mother, I said, Mom, I said, I want to marry Jesus. Mind you, this is not coming from like
A kid,
going
right?
to church it wasn't like that. It
Right.
just, I just came in the world like the way that I am.
Right.
And I said, I want to marry Jesus. And my mother looked at me. I was really serious. I want to marry Jesus. I love him. I want to
Mm-hmm.
marry him. And my mother said, Baby, you can't marry Jesus. I said, Why can't I marry Jesus? She said, Because we're not Catholic. And I said, Well, what's that got to do with anything? And she and she said, You want to be a nun. That's how you marry Jesus. Somehow that didn't go together for me. And I said,
Right.
Nah, there's got to be another way. And so one day, moving the story along, I was watching TV, and this movie came on called Song of Bernadette. And I don't know if you know this
I,
movie. It's a very old
I
movie,
don't.
so I won't go through all the details of it. But I'll get to the end of the story. She was she had a visitation
Mm-hmm.
from the Virgin Mary,
Uh-huh.
and the people in the village and all of the high priest officials, they were very jealous of her, and they didn't believe her, because how can you have a visitation from Christ? Who are you? You're just some little young girl living in a village, and you're poor and all of that. So she was like, no, this is what she said to me. And moving the story along, she became a nun,
Mm-hmm.
and all Mother Superior and all those people, they were really, really jealous of her, because they couldn't understand. They're, in they are the superior of religion, and they are supposed to be able to, if anybody hears from God, it should be them. But it wasn't, it was her. So they gave her all these real hard things to do. And she just did everything with a smile, and with grace in her heart. End of the story. I left a whole lot of it out, but
Mm-hmm.
the most important thing is how the jealousy of the people, because they couldn't see why God would use her. She's she is cleaning the floor, uh, thick tile, with a brush, and she's just scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing, and the Mother Superior, she's like da 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 and da 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 da, and she's like, okay, okay. And so it finally came out. What makes you feel like Mother Superior or Mother Mary would talk to you when I'm da 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 da? And she
Wow.
said, I don't know, but maybe it's this. And so she got up off the floor, and she opened up her habit, and she had this huge tumor that was just bursting out of her skin. And right after that, she said, "I maybe it's this." And then they were like, and she died. And when she died, they all were very ashamed of themselves. And some kind of way, Mother Superior, Mother Mary, did something to their hearts or whatever. It's been so many years ago, I don't remember.
I
But
don't.
the thing that stuck out to me was how they were jealous, how she was just being who she was and just trying to help people, and she didn't complain, and she died with this huge tumor
Mm.
in her belly that nobody knew anything about. And if you got cancer and it's bursting out of your skin,
Right.
you're in pain.
A lot of pain.
She didn't. She never complained, and she died. So I said all of that to say, when I saw that and how she died and what she had to do, I went to my mother and I said, "Mom." She said, "What, baby?" I said, I changed my mind. I don't think I want to be I don't want to be a nun,
Right.
and I think there's another way that I could marry Jesus. I'm just gonna just do the best that I can every day and just love him.
There you
I
go.
just want to just be that, and that's what I did. I created a life that the main intention was do the right thing,
Right.
be the best that you can be, share your love and whatever you are given, and just represent light, represent love, represent peace, represent unity, represent whatever you can represent that's going to bring people together.
Right.
So that's the story of Spirit Talk Soul Walk.
Amazing.
And people, they every day at some point, they go to my any one of those pages of my platform, and they will comment, they will read, they will send me messages, and I know that I'm on the right track by the things that they tell me.
Mm.
And that led to, as I was saying about my music, it's all one thing. So when I started writing, I didn't know that I was going to be in music. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. But I ended up with 3 albums. The first one is called Life's Just a Color TV. The second one is called Love Will Find a Way. And the third one, which is the recent one, is called Words. And Words basically just tells the story of the power of words, and how words can bring you up, they can heal you, or they can destroy you, tear you down and destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
They can create life and abundance, or they can bring you down to despair where you can't get above zero.
Right.
So that's where words came from, and this album is kind of like a how can I say this? It's kind of a story of my life again, connecting with my book,
Mm-hmm.
Spirit Talk Soul Walk. And it has a Marvin Gaye kind of feel because the songs that I'm singing, they're all anthem kind of songs. Never give up the fight, love will find a way, love conquers all, fear lies. It's just whole lot of stuff, and it has a lot of Latin beats, a lot of African beats. And in between these songs, there are lyrics. Well, I wouldn't say lyrics. I would say there are poetic entries that flow into the next song, like Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On." You know how he'd have a song, and then he would speak in between, and then he'd go into the next song. That's what this album has, that kind of energy,
Right.
and I'm very proud of it because it gives people a lot of a lot of hope. And when it's dark and you feel like you can't take another step, the songs on this album, which I said are anthem songs, they give you light to be able to start singing. I got no time for fear. That's a big one. I got no time for fear. And when you can, again, words having power. When you're singing, I got no time for fear, you know, as you keep singing it, it does something to your energetic component,
Mm-hmm.
and your spirit starts to align with the words because words have power.
Right.
They will kill or they will heal. So the album is loaded with stuff like that. So that's my music, that's my book, and I wrote a documentary,
Yeah. Tell me
and
about the
it is
documentary.
called Words. And it's basically the backstory of where this album comes from, the
Okay.
songs, where they come from, because everything is connected with things that I see in life, things that I feel, that I feel, or other people have experienced that I happen to be connected with, or I just feel their story, and
Mm-hmm.
it comes out in that way. And so I didn't know I was going to write this. I was just going to kind of do like a 5 minute little video to introduce the album. But as Spirit would have it, it ended up being a movie. And I ended up, the people that worked on this album, Wendy Moten, she's a brilliant singer. And she's worked with a lot of people. Sandy Simmons is another one. These people are like Diana Ross, like the old school people that are still wearing their crown, and the musicians that played on it. I wanted people to be able to not just see their name and hear them singing. I wanted people to see who they were. I wanted people to know a little bit about their story. I wanted to give them a gift of being seen. And so I wrote some questions and I sent it to them. And it was like 10 questions. And I was going to pick like five out of the questions and kind of put it together.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know there's their their answers to my questions were so profound and so heartfelt, I couldn't cut any of it out. So it turned out to be a movie because whatever it is that I was telling the story about that I saw, like Katrina, like stuff like that, and the stories of the people on the rooftops when the floods were so high and the people were dying,
Yeah.
and all I captured all of that from different things in life over the past, I don't know, 10 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I put it together, and then I sent them the questions and their response in their life, it was just so powerful that it was like, okay, I see what I'm supposed to do with this. I'm supposed to just keep going until I hear, okay, that's it.
That's
And
amazing.
that's kind of
Yeah.
what happened. It was like Noah, when God told Noah to build an ark, a boat, and he he had nobody had ever even seen rain. So how's he going to go out and build a boat and we don't even know what rain is? But he, and I'm sure he thought he was crazy because he was being obedient to what he heard to do, and he did it. And when he did it, what happened? There was a flood. So the story goes, and they were so many people died, and they went on, and the world is what it is, and all these different stories bring light and bring hope in different ways depending on how you look at it. But there's always a pearl in every moment of darkness that if you look at it, you extract it and go beyond, oh Lord, what's happening, or whatever you're feeling, and you go to the place of, you know what, there's something in this for me. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to dig for it until I find what it is, why this is happening. I know in my own personal life, whenever I do that, which I've learned to do that quite well over time, I'm I'm always grateful, no matter how hard it was, for what happened from it, because I always gain wisdom and knowledge and nuggets of gold that I have a warehouse full of things that I can draw from no matter what the situation is. And so I wanted to be able to share that from my book, from the documentary, from my songs, from my example of life,
Hmm.
just to be the best, and let other people be able to see that they too have the same opportunity. It's
Yeah.
like, what do you want? How far do you want to go? How far are you invested in this, in your spiritual walk? And again, I'm not talking about necessarily religion or religion in the way that we know it to be, but I'm talking about having integrity in your life, having love. For me, following the example and the teachings of Christ. Everybody's got their own way, and I'm not trying to tell anybody how to find their way, but I can tell you my way and what my life has shown
Hmm.
me, and the people that God has blessed me to be able to be a blessing to, and the people who have blessed me by just showing up in my life right at the right time, or giving me a pearl of wisdom when I had no idea what to do or how to go forward. So
Right.
that's my story.
Well, it's a beautiful story. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the music. I've been talking to a couple of other artists, and some of the questions I ask, I'm really interested in the process of making music. So, when you
Yes.
go into the studio, can you tell me more about the process of making music? Do you have the lyrics thought out already of what the concept of the song thought out already?
I'm happy to
Sure.
share that. For me, I see my songs like movies.
Gotcha.
And for me, it's not just one way. Sometimes it is, I see the movie, I hear the song, and I'll pick up my acoustic guitar and I'll start to uh, listen for where my fingers will take me
Mm-hmm.
for the melody.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that I'm just playing around and I hit like a riff or a chord, and when I hear that chord and it's repeating itself, it's talking to me. It's saying, I want you to dig more. I got more to give you. I got more to share with you. I kid you not. And so I'll start playing, and then I'll hear, play that again, play that chord again. And now, of course, it's not an audible voice, as I said, but it's something that leads me to, I'm going to play that again. So then when I play that chord again, then I start hearing something from the chord. A melody will pop out for me. That's one way. And when a melody pops out, then the melody will dictate what the name of the song is, what it will be. Or I will just start singing something over and over, and with that melody that I'm playing on the guitar. And when that happens, I then know, okay, I'm on to something. Then the words start to come. And as they're coming, it's usually me humming something. And as I'm humming, then I might be humming something, and then at the end of that particular phrase of the hum, it might be, and I'll be there. And so when I hear that I'll be there, I'm just humming, when I'm humming, and then I'll be there. Then I thought, oh, okay, I'll be there. And then I'm playing the chords that I'm hearing to play, and then I'm humming some more, and then it'll be make a way. So sometimes it's like that,
Got you.
where the melody, the chords, they come together and a word will jump out. And or two words will jump out, or a sentence will jump out. And if it's like that, then sometimes I know that's the title of the song, or sometimes I know that's the hook. That's one way. The other way is I can tell a story. I see the story, and like if you go to Spotify.com, Dorie Pride music. Then the three albums are there. You can see that a lot of the songs that I have written, they have a whole different vibe. I call myself a purple sheep because I don't fit in a box. I can do things from pop to jazz to R&B to folk to rock to hip hop to
Wow. Okay.
whatever it is that I
Diverse.
feel. Yeah, it's just going to come out. Sometimes if it's just the words and I'm hearing the story, I'm telling this story, I'll give the story. My husband, because we work together, he's my better half, and he's a
Gotcha.
brilliant producer and musician, and taught me how to play guitar. He's just magnificent. And I'm not saying that because he's my husband, not at all, because I'm a real truthful person. And
Me
if you
too.
ask me something, if you want to know the truth, ask me. If you don't want to know, I'm
Don't
not the
ask.
one
Yeah.
to ask. And he's like that too. So if I give him something, he'll say, "Okay, I hear that. Let me see what let me work on that."
Right.
And like this album, Words, all of the music on this album, Kamal wrote it. From the second album, Love Will Find a Way, I wrote most of the music and told most of the stories, and he came in and he perfected it and made the arrangements and all that stuff what it was, the best that it could be. But this album, Words, all of this, all of the, the music, it came from him. So and they came in a way that I had the stories,
Hmm.
and he liked what I was talking about, and he could hear it. If he could hear it, then he'll go and he'll run with it, and when we put it together, it's wonderful. But if he can't hear it, then that means either A, I'm going to do it, or B, it's not time for it to be put in the oven, because I'm not going to do anything unless I know for myself it's the best that it can be and I love it. If I don't love it, I'm not putting it out. I'm not even going to finish it until I can find something, the chunk that gives it, the sparkle.
Hmm.
If there's no sparkle, it's just going to sit until there is sparkle. And if there is no sparkle, then that means it might be a book.
Got you.
It might be something like that. When we go into the studio now, we put all of this stuff together. Kamal will lay down the tracks, and then if he's written the tracks and the melody, and I'm just doing the words, then I've got to learn the melody that he has written to go with the music. And many times I have really learned to stretch my palette because I was not a syncopated singer. I didn't do Caribbean kind of beats and stuff like that. My stuff was more about the world. It was more about it would have sometimes a jazz hip hop kind of flavor, but it was more heartfelt
Got you.
that just would pull you in. So I had to learn that. So he would give me the music, and he said, "Okay, here's this is what we're gonna do," and I listened to it. And I'm like, "Oh Lord, these beats are really syncopated. I don't have that in my wheelhouse." Well, I had to learn it, and I would just sit and listen and listen and listen. I'm giving you my process.
Hmm. Of course.
Listen,
I'm listening.
and I would sing like maybe first, if it's real hard, like the first three sentences, the first three lyrics, and I would hum it. because he's given me how it's supposed to go, the melody. But I would have to hum it with my voice so I could see where the accents were, when I'm supposed to clip this or when I'm supposed to do these different things.
Hmm.
So I would start with one or two or three, da 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 da, and the words are saying what they're saying,
Right.
but this is what the melody is saying, and I don't know how to do that yet. So I would have to keep going back to the first da 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 da, and I would do that over and over and over and over till it
To get the
locked
rhythm, yeah.
in. Yeah, then I would go to the next verse,
Hmm.
and until I all of that was locked in. So now I got a verse, and I'm happy with it.
Hmm.
Because if I'm not happy with it, and he's not, we're not doing nothing
Right.
until it is right. So I get to the finish that part. Now it's time for the chorus, and usually the chorus is like, oh Lord. So moving the story along, I got all of that down, and I said, okay, now I know how to do this. I got this tool, and I know when I approach this song, this is the way I have to sing it. Now, another little trick that I learned, when it's my lyrics and he's putting the music together and it's something that I'm not familiar with yet, I will, like I told you, I would hum it. Du- 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 du. I would I would take the words that I wrote, and then I would go, the first line is duh, 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 duh. And if it's like really difficult to put that beat together, I would take the word and I would split the word up so that I could see exactly where the accent should fall. And that really was a tool that was extremely helpful, because the more you can see where the accents lie and how you lay back on something or how you put something right in the pocket, that doesn't just happen unless that's just how you cut. I
Right.
wasn't cut like that. So I taught myself how to do that so that when I'm singing, everything is going to lock and be in sync, and it's going to be right. So when we finish that particular song, whatever it is, then Kamau will fine tune, or he'll say, "Honey, you can go back and do that line again." But this time, when you get to that last word, do it like this. And he would tell me how it should be done, and then I would listen to it, and based on everything that I learned about the accents and all of that,
Right.
I would hum it, and then I would sync it, and then I would do it, and then the whole song would fall in line. And that's basically how we write music.
Beautiful.
That's our process.
And is it the same for when you're writing a book or when you're writing your into your
No,
books? No.
no, no.
What's that? How
When
does
I'm
that
writing a
process differ?
book, yeah, it's very different, because when I'm writing a book or I'm writing a blog or I'm writing a magazine article, that is completely, I won't say 100%, but I want to say 90%. It just downloads. I'll start writing something. I know, okay, I'll just say COVID. I felt that. I got songs on different albums that talk about different things like that. And so again, like I said, my words they all kind of come together, whether it's a book, whether it's a magazine article, whether it's a blog. But the difference is I'm going to have a melody, and I have to make it musical, because you can't just take, well, some people can, but I don't find that my taste. Where the I like a flow. So when you're writing something, when I'm writing something, and I know I'm writing for an article or I'm writing for a book, or I don't know many times what it's going to be. I just will have an idea. I'll feel it in my heart, and then I might have one or two words that, or sentence or two, and I write that, and then my spirit opens up, and then my hand begins to just kind of flow naturally. It just moves, and it's like music, but it's words, and it doesn't have a melody, but it does have a melody, because I'm not writing music, but it's like a download straight from spirit. So when I'm writing a book like Spirit Talk Soul Walk, again, I told you that book was written from many years
Right.
of my spiritual walk. It was like after I would pray or meditate, I hear, I listen. I don't just pray and get up and go. I sit there and I listen, and I will say, uh, Spirit God, speak to me, to help me understand what it is you're trying to tell me. Let my heart be open to receive, and let my ear be open to hear, and give me discernment in what I'm listening to so I know my voice from yours. And that I know the voice of the adversary. I just know whatever is not right is going to make me feel bad. Whatever is going to not be good for people,
Right.
I know, and it's just about self. I know that's not the voice I'm going to be listening to because I know that's not God talking to me, talking to
Right.
me.
Somebody
So
trying to
I
get
can
me
just
in
put that
trouble.
to the side, and then I'm looking at and listening for the discernment between me wanting to do the right thing and God saying, "This is the way you should go.
Right.
This is what I want you to do. I want you
Right.
to do this. I want you to write this." And usually I won't hear, "I want you to." I just will hear. And then I'll get my journal and I'll put the pen down to the blank paper and words will just start coming out. And sometimes it's like a sonnet or just music, but it's just words and it's not meant for it to be a song. It's just the way it's flowing.
Right.
And I have a lot of things from these journals over the years. The spiritual contemplations, they're very strong because they're coming from me asking questions about whatever it is that I have a question about in life or about
Right.
my life or about people or about why did this happen or where should I go or how should this be done, that kind of thing, and I just listen.
Right.
And then when I listen, then I feel myself being pulled, get up and pick up your journal, get a pen. And I don't know what I'm going to write. I just know that I'm full at that moment and I know that spirit wants to reveal the answer.
Right.
And so my book Spirit Talk Soul Walk, this is it.
There it is.
Spirit Talk Soul Walk. It's laid out. It's not in a way that you would read a book.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like music. It's more like jazz.
Interesting.
It,
Okay.
it, it's a table of content, but it's not a table of content. Because, table of content would tell you page such and such, you're going
This
to
is on
find
it. Yeah.
such and such. And on this is not like that. The table of content on this book is sections. It's only 4 sections. The first one is trust and surrender. That's a section.
Mm-hmm.
Second is spiritual contemplations. The third section is fear and faith. And the fourth section is love and poetry.
Beautiful.
And so it's like
I
this.
want. I want to see that love and poetry segment already.
I didn't hear you.
I said I want to see that love and poetry segment already.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. People really they really get
Flock to
into
that
that.
segment.
Yeah, it was again. It's just one of those things. I'm sitting down because remember this is coming from years of
Mm-hmm.
journaling,
Mm-hmm.
and so I didn't know what it was going to be. And it was personal to me because I was just growing.
Mm-hmm.
But then when my mother said, "Promise me," and she's getting ready to leave, there's no way I was not going to honor her.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it got to be deeper than what I thought it was going to be, and I was going to have to share all this stuff. But now, when I look back on it, I'm so glad that I did because there's nothing in there that I'm like ashamed of.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that you live and you
Yeah.
learn, oh,
You
I'm not
live
gonna do
and
that
learn.
anymore. Oh, that
Yeah.
was the wrong way to go. Oh, I fell down. Okay, I'm gonna watch that hole right there. I know that I gotta look down when I see mud on the ground. You,
Right.
you know, I'm just making up
No,
stuff,
I
but you
hear
still
you.
get the point that I'm
I hear
making.
you. Yes.
All of it is in there. It's
Right.
all in there, and people feel that concentration of energy that you can use as a coat of armor
Yeah.
in life.
Yeah.
Love and beauty, that's one thing for sure, because it's a lot of it, and I love it. I love poetry.
Right.
I'm a poet for sure. But I
I am as
also
well.
like the contemplation of life and sitting down and talking with my friends and just enjoying, enjoying having some tea
Right.
and talking. And I don't mean tea like the stuff that people
Yeah, no,
talk about now. I'm
I know
talking
what you
about
mean.
uplifting tea.
Right.
Let's challenge each other. What do you think about that? What do you? Well, I think this, and then coming to that place where we make music with our intention.
Yes.
I like that. I like that.
Yes.
So going back to what you were asking me about the book and talking about the music, again, it's all one continuum, and I just love the way that life unfolds itself
Hmm.
when you're open to receive more.
Right.
Because so many people, they say, "Oh, I already know that.
Yeah.
I know that already." Well, you know that. I'm trying to tell you something. I already know it. But you know what? If your cup is full because you know it,
Right.
how can I? What if I got something really special,
That.
but you know it? I can't add it to your
Yeah.
cup because it spills over and it's lost.
Right. Yep.
I always leave my cup. Uh, I won't say half, but I leave it open enough so that somebody is coming in that can give me something and show me something that will help my life be better, that will help
Receive it.
me grow in the way that I've been gifted to live my life and to share it.
Right.
I don't know everything, and I'm the first person to tell you I don't know everything. But you know what? I do know what I know. I know what I know, and
Know
I
what
know
I
what I
know.
don't know. And
Right.
if I don't know it, I'm going to
I
find
ain't got no
somebody that
problem. Right.
does
I ain't got no
so they
problem.
can help me and I can grow.
Right. Man, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Dorie Pride. As I say with everybody, I'm really proud of all the interviews I've done so far. Everybody's got great stories, and you guys are all great interviewees. Make it very
Thank
easy. You're
you,
making my
Deon.
job
You
very
are a
easy.
great host and you ask
Thank you.
wonderful questions.
Thank you so
I
much.
enjoyed chatting with you today.
Likewise, and I look forward to doing it more in the future. Whenever you got stuff you're working on and you want to promote it, hit me up and we'll throw you on the radio.
I would love that. Well, I want to tell you now two things.
Go ahead, shoot.
My documentary Words. I'll be back in
Words,
touch
yeah.
with you about
Okay.
that
Okay.
because that's powerful.
Hmm.
And I want the listeners, if they're interested in Spirit Talk Soul Walk,
Where can they
it's a
get it?
rich read and it's not something that you can read from beginning to end. You can just pick it up,
Where can
and
they get it
wherever
at?
you pick it up, it's going to talk to you. They can purchase Spirit Talk Soul Walk exclusively on my website. And it is doriepride.com/author. That's spelled DORIEPRIDE /author.